Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, the House has elected you to call you to return to the chamber to give some consideration to a ruling that I've given in regard to a number of amendments that were tabled in the House. Let me give some context to that event. You will recall, Mr. Speaker, that immediately after question time the House went into committee. It has for that whole time been debating part one. When we returned after the dinner adjournment, we commenced to again debate on part one. There had been some 48 calls at that point on the bill, and at 7:33 I received a bundle of amendments which I will table for you for your consideration. I was at that time, Mr. Speaker, of the mind to take a closure given the nature of the debate that had occurred and all of the considerations that one does take. However, I delayed for about another 40 minutes while the clerk at the table and myself gave consideration to these amendments. I also had the table office clerk also considering the amendments that had been tabled. Mr. Speaker, it is my view that these amendments are not a serious amendment in that they have marginal changes to wording, in my view, or alter the structure of words or the phraseology, if that's a word, Mr. Speaker, around the way in which the construction of the various sections of the bill are laid out. And so accordingly, under Standing Order 1115, I ruled that they don't substantially make a change to any portion of the bill, and in that regard I ruled them out of order. The House has expressed some concern about that and has asked you, Mr. Speaker, to give a ruling.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr. Speaker, I think the Chair has summarised the situation, the factual situation relatively well. The point that I would like to put in front of you and the difference I think that the opposition has with the Chair goes to whether the opposition has the right or not to move amendments to bring a bill into line with the Legislation Advisory Committee's recommendations for plain English drafting. Mr. Chairman, it is my view that the Legislation Advisory Committee has, and probably 5 or 6 years ago now, made some, and might have even been longer ago, made some excellent recommendations, many of which have been taken on by Parliamentary Council, but they all go in the end towards plain English drafting. And if you like to look at the amendment of Mr Little round subclause 7.1, the amendment of Mr Chevelle round subclause 8.1, or the amendment of Mr Twyford around clause 10, I think what you will find in each of those cases, and I've just pulled out a sample from them because members have been working identifying these this marginal drafting over quite a period now, and have identified a large number of those, and using those as examples, Mr Chairman, these I'm not going to pretend these change the direction of the bill, but could well make a significant difference in having a plain English interpretation which will be useful for the public at large and for the courts in the interpretation.
Now, the members of the House wish to draw any matters to my attention. The Leader of the House, the Honourable Jerry Brown.
Mr Speaker, I think the previous ruling that is correctly relied on talks about the specificity of the amendments, and Mr Mallard has made a case that they were very specifically put together, as has Mr Hipkins. But in reality, sir, where they don't actually lead you to simply understand what the intention is, they can't be precisely prescribed. I think even if you went to 4 of 1115, it talks there about amendments or parts of amendments which are too vague are also out of order. Now, throughout this bundle of amendments, sir, there are references that can only be described as vague. There are also, sir, I think, amendments that do, as is prescribed here in the standing orders, merely attempt to criticise the bill, and therefore to, in fact, start to deconstruct the bill. Now, Mr Speaker, it is supposed to be a process that allows amendments to a bill for the betterment of the bill. I don't think, sir, that case can be made with some of the many amendments that are here in front of us, Mr. Speaker. And I think the difficulty that this presents is that if we were to get into this sort of situation, every committee stage of every bill in the House would be an opportunity for the deconstruction of a bill, and that was never the intention for the committee stages of any bill's consideration.
I thank honourable members for bringing me up to. I mean, I was actually listening to the debate with some care, actually, because I was aware of the potential for concern in this matter. I think, as I look at the amendments myself, and I hadn't had the chance to see these because they were brought into the House at reasonably late, and I just opened one at the middle of the bundle, an amendment in the name of Andrew Little, and it says subclause 7.1. Subclause 7.1 is amended by inserting the words will amend after this section and omitting the word amends. Now that is clearly not in keeping with the standing orders of the House. That is trifling with words. It's not altering the meaning of the bill at all. It's not it is not an alternative form of words that actually have significance in relation to the bill. And you know, I haven't had the time or the chance to go through all of these, but I opened another one and it related to omitting the words "it's," and you know, the amendments must propose a serious alternative form of words. And as I say, I turned that one open, the first one opened, and to replace amends with will amend, I think is not a serious alternative form of words. And so, you know, proposing amendments that simply seek to change the order of words in a particular clause or substitute words with the same or very similar meaning, amendments that don't offer any significant change in the meaning of the provision are simply not in order. And that is why I feel the chair has and the officers, the officials at the table, the clerk's office officials at the table who have had the chance to go through all of these, have not been unreasonable in coming to a conclusion that these do not offer any significant change to the meaning of the provisions. And that's why it's been ruled, as I understand it by the chair, that they're not in order. And I'd have to support that ruling as I just flick through them to see, you know, what is. I opened another one, simply amended, inserting the word rightful after insert in its, omitting the word appropriate. You know, these are simply really you know, playing with words and do not alter the meaning of the provisions, and they're not in order because of that. And that is why I think I have to support the ruling of the chair. If I could find among them amendments that had significant impact, I would look at it much more. But I'm unable to find any that have such meaning, and that is why I think the chair's ruling has not been unreasonable. He allowed time. He was believing he would be prepared to accept a closure shortly after the dinner break. He allowed another 40 minutes as he and the officials went through each of these amendments. And so his ruling is made after a period of some consideration. And that is why I feel that the chair's decision is not an unreasonable one. And I have to therefore rule accordingly. And so I therefore declare the House in committee for further consideration of the bill. Mr. Chairman.
The House and Committee on the Mixed Ownership Model Bill, and the question is that Part 1 stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. Party vote. The clerk will conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party.
14 votes opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Māori Party.
3 votes opposed.
Mana.
1 opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
1 in favour.
United Future.
1 in favour.
The ayes are 61, the noes are 60. Part 1 will stand part. Members, we move now to Part 2, which is the debate on clauses 12 to 18 and